Software projects usually go like this. You never know everything up front, but you still have to start and you figure things out along the way. It's quite like the real-time strategy game with a fog of war, for example, like Starcraft. You can only see so far and the map unveils as you go along. Let's imagine this is our software project. We are at point A and we want to go to point B, which is our goal. In this case, A is the development team and B is the client, where the client wants to go. That's the end result the client wants to have. The problem is that this straight line does not exist. Instead, we have a terrain, and the terrain has a fog of war. Let me explain. This is how it actually looks like. The development team does not exactly know how they get from A to B, but they kind of can hear where the client is and where the client wants to go to a certain extent. But they also don't really know how far the client is. So what now happens is they have to start, even if they don't know exactly what's going on in between. They have to make the first move. And this is how it looks like. The team starts to venture into the wild, and they would now leave the sprint at this point. So once the sprint is done, the team is now at this point, and then they're giving the demo to the client, and the client says, oh yes, but we're actually here, we need to course correct a bit, this is not exactly what we want. So now in the second step, in the second sprint, the team then thinks, okay, the client is somewhere here, now they have to do the second sprint, and now they go again. Okay, this was the second sprint, and the team has gotten closer to the goal, but they're not in the right direction. So they give another demo, and now the client says, okay, we have to go here, so let's do another sprint. And now they're close to the goal, but not reached yet. And now they hear the client more clearly. They kind of know where this is going, and they figure out a way to come out here out of the map. And this is how they went from A to B. It's not a straight line, it's a zigzag line. And this usually goes through iterations. So that's why the real development time is always slower than what was estimated in the beginning. There are a couple of problems that additionally come to this scenario. Because, for example, the client does not know exactly where they want to go. They have an idea, but during the development, they shift the goals a bit. And they're just, maybe they say, okay, they actually want to be here at B1. And so the development team now goes into the first sprint, okay, cool. And now the second sprint, they have to go a bit more to B1. And now for some reason, the client thinks, okay, it would be a great idea to change the goal a bit. And now they have to actually go here, B2. And that means the team now needs to do another course correction more down here. And then finally, they can reach the goal. If the client changes requirements, the project usually takes longer because we have to revert certain things where we went before, we have to course correct, and then the way takes longer. Another thing that frequently happens is that, let's say they went into totally the wrong direction, let's say up here. Now the point from this last point to the end result is longer than if they would go back first and then start here. So this would be marginally faster. So what they then need to do is delete this development effort and basically redo the work of that sprint. And there's a case for the full rewrite is when they went into a direction which is so far off, let's say up here, that it doesn't make any sense to continue, because from this point on, this point is so far off from the goal that they would be better served by just redoing this whole thing here, like starting from scratch and then continuing from this point on. And there's another difficulty in software projects because there's this aspect of terrain. Sometimes you have it, for example, you want to explore a technology or you think something works in a certain technology, but it actually doesn't. So you have to find another solution. So there's terrain here that you don't even know before. Let's say this rock is here. And so the development team goes into this direction and they think they can go to point B, but they cannot. They actually need to walk around this and then slowly reach point B. This is a typical situation. For example, what we needed to run an anonymization service and we noticed that we just couldn't do it with the current technology. So we had to figure out another way. So this just took longer, and this was our rock in the terrain. That's why software development projects usually take longer. And that's also why we work in sprints, because you just cannot know everything up front. I was thinking about this aspect of software development, or this view on project, and I think it's quite accurate. And then I got this email from my friend Swizek, and he made a point which is very similar. He said software development is like kicking a can, and if you look at this picture, it is pretty similar. Whatever mental model you have in your head, it doesn't really matter as long as you accept that starting a software project usually involves not knowing everything, and you gotta figure things out along the way. For us, the most important thing is that we try to make demos as much as possible so we can actually figure out when we need to course correct. And the more you can do that, usually the more agile you are and the faster you can figure out software projects and go to point B and deliver the software. If you want to know more about software development project and especially how to define software projects, watch this video on my channel.